had a good day, and they bought into the idea of, the purpose of practice and with the change and how important it is for us. Like every opportunity that we get to get together on the floor, when it's not a game, is huge for us. So we've got to use these days wisely. We've got to be intelligent. Obviously, we need to be prepared to go tomorrow night. But like these days are important as far as our growth is concerned.
Do you anticipate making any hires
No.
for your staff?
No, not right now. Yeah.
And that's just because there's not enough time? Or...
Yeah, I mean, it's 28 games. I think the group that we have is a really good group. But, I think it's just like we're comfortable with where we are now, and bringing somebody else in, just adds to, some of the chaos that's created by the situation. So, we just sat down as a coaching staff, and we know how we move, and we know what gaps need to be filled. So we just talked amongst each other to fill those gaps.
So everyone obviously moves one chair to the left. So who fills the empty seat up there?
So what we're going to do is Lindsay and JJ, they'll rotate that seat depending on who has the scout responsibilities.
JB, you said you wanted to push the tempo on offense a little bit. That's been going well the last couple of days.
Yeah, everybody always says they want to run, but it's difficult. Like you may run the lane as a wing, 20 times and get the ball 3 times. A big guy may run the floor 20 times and get it twice. So it's hard. So what we're trying to create is an environment where they feel rewarded for doing that. And we're putting pressure on whoever the ball handlers are to get that ball up the floor, because with the way we're made up, it can be anybody. You know what I mean? Like Colin can handle it early and he can throw it ahead to Darius. Darius can handle it and throw it ahead to Jetty. Jetty can handle it and throw it ahead to KP. And then obviously our bigs running, we let our bigs handle and push the ball when they get defensive rebounds, so they could be the ones initiating. And so it's one of those things where, it's the quid pro quo, so to speak, where we can get guys, everybody feels involved and feel a part of it, so they'll do it for one another.
Is Lindsay sitting up there tomorrow?
Yep, she'll be there tomorrow.
You think she'll have to calm her down?
No, I'm sure she'll be good. She keeps us calm.
She does?
Yeah, so she's good at that.
I mean, you've gotten to know her over a year. What's she like? What have you gotten to know about her?
She is extremely intelligent and perceptive. She sees things from a vantage point, that's extremely helpful. I tend to see things from, just a straightforward kind of, bonehead, way. And she takes that same situation and she gives me, the opposite side of it all the time in a way that is always helpful. Like she's extremely calming, in those situations where, emotions run high. Like I've never seen her get flustered or get upset. So, she's great to have around because she sees like the big picture, even in the short term, you know what I mean? Like she doesn't let herself get stuck here. She always sees what's going on further down the line.
What would you like to see out of Kevin Porter these last 28 games?
A lot. We believe in him and think he's got, a high ceiling. And we want to see him get there and be consistent at it. If you look at over the past weeks, where his shot has improved from the 3-point line, like that's a credit to his work. Putting the ball in his hands more and having him make more plays and focusing on, the right decisions and making the simple play where we cut back on some of his turnovers. He sees the floor, at a high level. And the play is sometimes the right play, but how we execute that play, right? So whether it's a bounce pass or a lob or the pass at the level of the hands, like those types of things, I think quickly, he can grow in that area, and, his elite playmaking ability can go to another level. So we're going to give him a shot to do a ton. We're going to put the ball in his hands. We're going to ask him to score. We're going to ask him to facilitate. And then, the conversation we have with KP is, he has the opportunity to be a two-way player. And so we just don't let him, focus on offense and focus on scoring. Like you look at the teams that have success now, is they put guys, on the floor who are capable of doing it on both ends of the floor. And I think that's somewhere where he can be, and we need to get to.
That's been around the league. There's been a lot more tall creators. Is that something he can do? Is that kind of the role you envision for him?
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that he does naturally. You know, it's not, you know, the guys that have that ability, you know, you don't get them here and then create that. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that he does instinctually, and that makes it, you know, easier for us as coaches. But what we have to do is now put him in situations over and over again where everybody knows what's happening and what the opportunities are, you know, so he can make the proper reads and get guys the ball in the spots where they need to get it and read what the defense is doing. And I think that's where the experience will kick in for him, is just seeing the same thing over and over again and then seeing a different defense the next night, you know what I mean? And how do you make the adjustment from one night to the next? And him playing, you know, these minutes and having the opportunity is going to help him.
No, you haven't coached a game yet, but do you see any lineup changes or rotational changes here in the future?
No, not yet. We will, you know, get to a point where we do some experimenting and try to figure out, you know, who plays well with who, and, you know, are there things that we can do to be creative? You know, like we talk about KP, like, can he play the point? You know, can we put the ball in his hand and let him initiate some stuff? You know, so those types of things, like, what do we look like when we're small ball? You know, what do we look like when we're big? You know, can Dre and Tristan play together, and what can we do with that, and how does that help us defensively? And then, you know, how do you work with their spacing offensively? So those are things that we've talked about. Right now we're trying to just, you know, be steady and take baby steps, but once we feel like we've got our footing underneath us, then we'll start to play with some of those things.
With this roster, what's a small ball lineup look like?
I mean, it could be Larry at the 5 or Kevin Love at the 5, you know, with Jetty at the 4, KP at the 3, and then Darius and Colin. I think those guys, and I mean, even you think about throwing, you know, with Dre's ability to protect the rim and hold down the paint, you know, you could put him out there with that lineup, and then, you know, you still rebound well. So I think we've got a lot of versatility and directions that we could go with that. You know, a big lineup possibility. You know what I mean? Can you throw Larry on the floor at the 3 with, you know, Jetty at the 2 and KP at the 1 and Kevin and Andre or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, I think we have, because of our guys' skill sets, there's a lot of things that we can play with.
An aspect of the team's struggles before we came along is the way that they closed games.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the kind of the antidote to helping get away from those late game mistakes, and especially when they're in games like
Yeah, the consistency and the experience. You know, you look at the guys from our guard standpoint that have been on the floor, and they just haven't had a lot of experience in those situations. And that's what this comes down to. You know what I mean? Like, you look at the elite players, you know, they all stumble at some point in those situations. And then whether it's a playoff win, you know, whether it's a fourth quarter win, whatever it may be, that triggers the next thing, and the confidence and the belief of, oh, we know how to do it. You know, but the difficult circumstances of us not having a ton of those situations and being in those games, like, you need the reps at it. So our guys will keep getting better the more we put them in those situations. And then, you know, we do it in practice. You know, we rep those situations in practice as well, and just continue to get better at it and give them more and more experience.
Do you have a lead assistant? Like, if you get run tomorrow night, like, who would?
Right now it'd be Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't plan on getting kicked out. Not yet. Not yet.
Saturday though, whole different.
Yeah.
Has your phone blown up with messages from people you haven't heard of from in a while and all that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been going nonstop, but you know, it's a good thing, because it's a lot of people who, you know, whether it's your past encounters or whatever it's been, that, you know, still care about what you're doing and want to see you, you know, be successful. So, like, that's the thing that's, I think, you know, when this always happens, or, you know, when I got the job full time in Memphis, like, there's a lot of people, you know, who, and especially in, you know, this circle, like, we spend so much time with one another, and then, you know, they get traded, you go to another team, you know, you don't see each other except for maybe once or twice a year. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for those people to reach out, like, the time that we spent together is obviously meaningful. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, that's kind of why we do what we do, you know what I mean, is to build those relationships that last longer than, you know, how often we're next to each other.
You've been in the player development player development business for a while. How do you toe the line between discipline and also keeping guys confident as they move forward?
I think it's just the way you handle them. You know what I mean? And like my message to our guys is always like, we want you to be successful. And the only thing that matters to us is how do we get you to your potential. Like none of this is ever personal, right? None of it is, is calculated, or, there's no mind games or any of that stuff. It's just being brutally honest, but finding the balance of picking people up and how you communicate with them. Like we're not going to beat people down to get them better, right? We're going to have conversations with them. We're going to show them, we're going to work with them, we're going to rep it, and then, they'll grow from there. But there's a trust factor in, when you talk to someone that they believe, what your intentions are, and they believe what you're talking about, hopefully, but they listen. So, like I met with the guys today individually, and those are the conversations that we have. And our staff is really good at that. Like our staff is a bunch of good people who, appreciate and respect the game of basketball and respect our guys for more than just, pieces on a game board, right? Like the humanity part of it. And so they care about them genuinely. And those relationships, help you overcome, all the frustrations and emotions and, the who's right and who's wrong when you all know that you're doing it for the right reasons.